I plan to cover the high-level theory around what makes something a data product, get a little bit into how we build data products, and end it with some real-world examples of how these are benefiting real customers. Just as a Richie introduced, I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Modern Data Company. Just a little bit about our company. We started in 2019 with a mission to really empower organizations to think outcome first when it comes to data and drive a lot more efficiencies that we see in software engineering in the data space. We've had some great success with some large enterprise leading customers so far, with some great partnerships, and we are very excited about the future, the data products, the potential of data products, in the future of data. This is a little bit about our product, Data OS, data operating system, been recognized by Gartner across multiple categories. We're excited about December edition of Data OS into the Magic Quadrant for data integration tools as an honorable mention. So that's some good industry validation for us. Most recently, I think, couple of weeks ago, ThoughtWorks added us to the tech radar. And ThoughtWorks kind of sees Data OS, as you can see on the right-hand side here, as the end-to-end lifecycle management platform to completely go from design to management of data products and everything in between, all powered through a single platform. That's about our company, and now I'll get into why we are here, is to talk about data products. So this is a Gartner definition of what is a data product, right? And what I wanted to call out here is, number one, data products have to be curated. You start with what is the business intent, what is the use case that you're trying to execute, model that business need into the right data models with the right metrics, measures defined. And then you also need to make sure that the data, the metadata, the transformation logic, everything that you need to understand the data, the true knowledge around the data, is also contained with the data product itself, so that it becomes an independently valuable unit that becomes highly reusable. And that reusability is what drives the time to value and speed to value on the other side when you start consuming data products. Another important aspect you should be thinking about when you're creating data products is to ensure that the consumers of the data product can inherently trust the data coming out of these data products. So ensuring you set up the right SLOs, you provide the right visibility to the consumers about the freshness, about the quality, about the compliance aspects of the data become crucial. That allows you to make data products a single source of truth for all business consumption. Some of the key principles of a data product, I believe they should be guided by product thinking. They are empowered by the inherent value that they bring in a self-contained nature. They are designed with a very specific purpose. And this is what I was talking about early on when I started chatting about the outcome first way of thinking about data, and the user centricity in the ease of access and use of these data products. And that could be humans or even machines that are trying to access this data product. And when you say we have data products that are guided by product thinking, that means that you are essentially understanding what exactly am I trying to do with the data, capture that intent, define the right SLOs around how you want to deliver the data for the specific use cases, and be able to do this with minimal data movement. Powered by inherent value, the data is pre-processed. This is a key aspect of the data product, is what you're getting is not just raw tables and raw data, but pre-processed, curated, enriched data that is ready to use by the business teams, and it provides the semantic understanding of the data as well. If you design data products the right way, you should have these standard integration options where, if I'm powering analytics dashboards, do I have an easy way for all of the Tableaus, Power BI supersets to be able to connect and leverage the data products? If I'm building machine learning applications on top of it, do I have the right interface points to be able to plug into your ML platforms? If I want to drive application building through APIs or GraphQL interfaces, these are some of the out-of-the-box integration options that you should be thinking about when you start designing and building your data products. And these out of the box integration options allow you to quickly deliver the data in the right formats at the right cadence so that the business can start extracting value from it quickly. And like any other product, they need to be easily understood, they need to be trusted, and they should be able to be accessed, in a very simple manner. Some of the symptoms of when organizations do not apply this kind of a product thinking to data, where they're able to start from outcomes, there's a lot of missed business. So much value in data. I feel a lot of organizations are very data rich and insights poor, and that is, a symptom of the lack of product thinking, where you're not able to curate the data against your business needs effectively. When you have such a data sprawl across the organization, not knowing what data to use for what sort of a business outcome, that sprawl often leads to poor governance and quality controls. You'll see security risks with, data not being protected properly. There is not a very good way to discover and access the right enterprise data that you need to run your business. Scalability is a problem, and the most important thing is you're wasting a lot of time, money, and resources if you're not being very, very specific and outcome driven when it comes to thinking about your data. And when you apply that kind of a product thinking to data, where you start with the intent and then go back to the left to see what data do I need to execute on this intent, you address a lot of the problems that I spoke about in the previous slide, where you can reduce your risk and uncertainty. You add immediate value to the business, where you're completely empowering your business teams to self-serve, start using these kind of data products to drive their business decisions. Of course, you can unlock a lot of competitive advantages when you have that kind of flexibility in trusting and deploying data for multiple types of use cases. One of the big problems that I have seen through my 2 decades of working in data is, even if you create the right kind of insight, you have the right kind of prediction and forecasting using an ML model, oftentimes there's a lack of trust in the data itself. And that is something that is very crucial. And some of the things I spoke about with driving the right SLOs as you design your data products will help you address this trust issue. It'll help you definitely scale faster. And one of the core aspects of a data product is that it is a logical definition of the data, the formats, and the SLOs to drive a specific business outcome, which means that you don't have to constantly move data, understand what you need to understand while you keep data in place, and only move data when you have to execute on a use case. And that inherently, is a significant cost savings as well. And what makes something a good data product? These are some of the questions that a data product needs to answer. Can I find it easily? Do I have a catalog where I can easily discover the data product? Do I understand what was the purpose with which this data product was built? Am I able to use it against those sorts of intents? Is it addressable? Can I get access to it? Can I address it and use it, where I need to? Is it secure from a data security, privacy, governance aspect? The interoperability of the data product to be able to, run on multiple clouds, work with multiple underlying data infrastructure technologies becomes crucial. The trustworthiness of the data driven through SLOs is again a big thing. Can the data be accessed? And more importantly, is a data product valuable on its own, where that quanta is enough for you to define and drive business value? And I just wanted to compare how you look at traditional products, and when you apply that kind of a product thinking to data, what does that mean? If you have your traditional products that are displayed prominently in physical stores, or your Amazons of the world, do I have a very similar way of discovering the data product using a centralized data catalog? Becomes interesting. Just like you have user manuals for packaging, and you pick up a carton of milk and it shows you the calories, it shows you all the contents, and you can trust that, do I want to buy this or not? The same thing, when it comes to data products, are you able to document with clear purpose what is this data about? What can it do? What is the underlying source of truth? What is the quality of the data? That becomes important if you build the data products the right way. Addressing addressability, can I go to a physical store and pick up? Yes. The same way, do I have an API? Do I have a URI for me to access this data product? Is something that you should be thinking about. Security aspects, how do I make sure that data products are secure from a privacy and compliance perspective? And then, if just like a traditional, I can buy a charger that is compatible with 10 types of different devices. If I have a USB-C, for example, do you have a similar kind of standardized way of defining the schemas, maintaining the right formats, and providing the right interface points to be able to, access this data product across multiple tools? How do I build the implicit trustworthiness of the data? Can I make it natively accessible? Is it independent on its own? These are all the things that a traditional product does. You can think about a box of cereal or a carton of milk. When you think about data products and applying product thinking, you should be thinking about data products the same way. In that kind of packaging, that kind of information that you provide to the consumer so that they can implicitly trust and know that I can use this product for this kind of a purpose. And one of the advantages you get if you implement data products as this independently valuable units that are self-contained and that can drive business value is that you can absorb the change that is happening at your data platform, data infrastructure level, and not let that impact how the business teams are going to consume data, because you are creating a consistent interface on at the data product layer through APIs, GraphQL interfaces, ODBC, JDBC connections, etc., where the data product layer is going to become your consumption-ready data layer. And you essentially build the right interoperability at the data product layer so that it can go into the underlying infrastructure, no matter if that infrastructure is Snowflake heavy, Databricks heavy, hyperscaler native infrastructure. You still can build this kind of a consumption layer on top and decouple the usage from the management of data. And this is, for me, one of the most critical aspects of building and deploying data products the right way. So where does this fit in your current data stack? I see data products as the consumption-ready data layer that fits between your current data infrastructure where you're managing your data and the consumption layer where you're driving your advanced analytics, AI, ML, Gen AI, and other sorts of use cases. And for something to become the consumption data layer, you need obviously to have the right discoverability through a data product catalog. You need to be able to have the semantic modeling capabilities and the changes. One of the key aspects is that it inherently provides you a global metrics layer where all of your BI logic is now at the platform level instead of being embedded into your reporting layer, which makes it very hard for you to migrate from, let's say, a Tableau to a Power BI, etc. And last but not the least, providing standardized interfaces, APIs, GraphQL interfaces, ODBC, JDBC connectors, Kafka, Pulsar, topics, etc., so that all of the use cases on the top can be executed. And what is a data product layer used for? Like I just mentioned, the global metrics layer, I think, is very powerful, where you're finally creating a shared definition of business metrics cataloged across the enterprise that can be reused, by everybody in the organization. So you're all playing from the same sheet of music. The fact that data products inherently will allow you to not have to constantly move data, constantly centralize data, but create this logical data model or the logical entity as a data product, connect into your source systems, and only move data when you have to. And the fact that you don't have to make multiple copies of data, the fact that you can be a lot more efficient if you start creating the right metrics around your data products to see how much money are you spending on creating and managing a data product versus what is the ROI that you're getting. These sorts of things that come by implementing a data product will allow you to be very efficient with your FinOps. It decouples data activation from data infrastructure, which is going to really unlock the business value and make sure that the IT teams that are managing your infrastructure and the business teams that need the data, you're creating a nice buffer between the two of them through this consumption ready data product layer. And last but not the least, providing that context rich data. And as a consumption ready data layer through data products, you're not just delivering data, but you're also delivering the knowledge around the data so that you can actually start using the data with some trust. So now that we spoke about kind of just the high level, what is a data product, how does it compare to physical data products, and where can you use it? I wanted to get into a little bit of a detail on what is the actual data product, right? So a typical data product, I believe, should include the data, which includes the modeling, the metrics, measures that are captured to support a specific business purpose, all the metadata around the data that could be across your existing infrastructure. You need to bring all of that and make it available along with the data, the code, all the transformation logic across the raw data that is coming into the data product. Can I capture all of that and make it available along with the data? The last but not the least, providing the right infrastructure necessary to from a compute perspective as well as a querying perspective, so that different users of the organization can use this data product. Taking these four things and being able to containerize that into a single independent unit now allows you to get the entire knowledge about the data. It gives you a complete understanding of how did the data come to be into the current state, and it gives you infrastructure as code embedded into the data product so that this data product can be run on any cloud. And I would also suggest, and we are seeing a lot of value by creating these data product metrics, where it's just like you have Google Analytics for all of your products that you build today, and you capture the behavior, the usage, the value that you're driving. The same thing can be done with data products, where you can start creating metrics that allow you to understand who is using the data products, what sort of business use cases and ROI are you able to drive or not, and how much money are you spending in actually processing and maintaining data products which are not being used. That really helps you streamline the data product lifecycle and ensures that you don't create a massive sprawl of data products, which kind of defeats the purpose of creating these data products as single sources of truth. And then on the other side, ensuring that the data products have standard integration options. If I want to run my Tableau's, Power BI's, can I provide standard ODBC, JDBC connectors? If I want to stream data out of a data product, do I have these topics that I can quickly stream the data out through? Do I have an ability to materialize this data for performance reasons into any sort of a data storage layer of my choice? These are some of the things when you're thinking about architecting your data product that'll help you really make the data product the single source of truth for your business teams. From a reusability perspective, for example, I've created a customer 360 data product where I've mapped out data coming from my customer profile, from my loyalty, and all sorts of relevant customer domain data to create your customer 360. That same customer 360 data product can be leveraged to share data with your third parties in a very compliant manner by applying governance at the data product layer. Same data product can power applications. They could be Streamlit apps, they could be React, Angular, you name it. The API layer and the GraphQL interface allows you to start building applications off of the same data product. You can integrate the output of the data products into your SaaS applications. Observability on the data products allows you to drive a lot of business process automation by understanding how the business metrics are changing, capture that delta, and be able to react to it in a real-time manner. Same thing can be done with the data product quality and the life cycle of the data product. Being able to use the same data product without making copies for reporting or audience building in the case of a customer 360, and powering your marketing and advertising use cases. If you design the data product the way we spoke about in the previous slide, this is the kind of value you can get, where that single entity, without you having to make multiple copies of the data product, can power these kinds of use cases. And that is the the real value that you get in terms of simplifying how you're managing the data, plus providing multiple options for the business teams to be able to embed the data into their business decisioning process. The advantage of creating layer within your one, we have seen 80 to 90% faster time to value in executing use cases from the data product layer onwards versus going into your storage layer or your current infrastructure layer. It provides a lot better collaboration between teams who are accessing the data products together. And some of that, I'm not trying to push our product, but there is a lot of collaboration that we built in to ensure that multiple teams can trust and use the same data product. And if some changes are happening inherently to the underlying data, that everybody that is using the data product can know about it immediately and react to those things. The productivity improvements is again a big advantage that you will see. The reusability of data products, again, if you design data products the right way, and at the modern data company, we took an artifact first approach where everything is checked in into our customers' Git or Bitbucket repository. And when you're trying to create a new data product, you can check out an existing data product, make the relevant changes to it, apply it, and we have CI/CD compliance, so you can easily one-click publish a new data product. And we've used a lot of object-oriented constructs to drive that reusability and modularity in the data product. And more importantly, how do you scale for future use cases? If I want to be able to run Gen AI, if you want to do private LLMs on your structured data, these kind of use cases, the accuracy of these models, the quality of the outputs of your investments into these Gen AI, private LLMs, AI ML significantly increases when your data is context rich, when you have the complete understanding of your data. And that is inherently what a data product provides. So it will also become the right consumption ready layer for your Gen AI and private LLM use cases on structured enterprise data. This is a McKinsey article listed in the link here that talks about, if you implement data products the right way, you can drive up to 90% reduction in time to implementing new use cases, a 50% reduction in governance and data quality risks that organizations face today, and up to 30% reduction in TCO. I mean, these are massive numbers in terms of the promise of the data products, which is why you're seeing such a big Gartner adding data products to their hype cycle, and you're seeing a lot of interest in this category in general, is because this kind of an advantage that a data product layer can drive for your enterprise. Richie, before I go in, any thoughts or questions, or shall I go into the next section on how we build?
We don't have any questions from the audience at the moment. So for everyone listening, if you do have any questions for Srujan, then please do write them in the chat. And then, I think we'll carry on with the presentation for now, and then we can do audience questions afterwards.
So when you're building data products, the first thing I wanted to kind of help understand is there are two types of data products the way we see it. There are source-aligned data products, which are essentially becoming the single source of truth from your source system. So for example, if you have multiple order management systems, you can create a singular source-aligned data product that is going to take data from this multiple order management systems and create a single way to represent that source system. You should create data contracts on top of these source-aligned data products so that anybody that is trying to use data from a specific source system can trust the data. Or if you're seeing that your SLOs are not being met through the data contracts that you have set up, you can leverage the observability to go fix the data quality issues right at the source before they become a bigger issue from business decisioning perspective. So that's the step one, is creating the right source-aligned data products. And once you map your entire enterprise and all the domains and all of your source systems into the source-aligned data product layer, then you can start building the consumer-aligned data products, which often are built on top of this source-aligned data product layer. And because of the fact that these source-aligned data products also have data contracts, when you're building data products which are more built towards driving specific business use cases, you get the right quality of data with the right governance and compliance taken care of. So that's kind of the difference between a source aligned and a consumer aligned data products. And I'll talk more about where they fit in the entire value chain. You know, and how to build a data product. You first need the right kind of self-serve infrastructure, so that you can easily start leveraging these kind of workflows, services, policy management, secrets management, etc., to create uh, the the flexibility in the data products that you're building. From a development perspective, start with understanding what sort of inputs am I bringing into the data product. Do I have an understanding of the quality and the statistical profiling of the data? Is it the right compliant data? That's something that you figure out from the inputs, and leveraging some of the data contracts on the source aligned data product side. The second step is the modeling and the transformations that you need to apply, understanding clearly the end state model, the metrics, the measures against different dimensions that you need to, all of that captured in the modeling layer, and the necessary transforms you want to apply so that that data is ready for the intent with which this data product was built. Ensure that you define the SLOs correctly. What should be the freshness of the data, what are the trusted sources of truth uh, at the underlying infrastructure level. uh, Understanding the quality of the data, does it have to be 95%, 98%, depending on the type of use case, that should be clearly defined. GDPR, CCPA, these kind of compliance requirements defined as well as a part of the SLOs. And then last but not the least is what sort of output ports or integration options am I going to enable so that I can actually deliver a use case on the other side. And once you create the data product with the inputs, with the modeling and transforms defined, with the SLOs defined, and the necessary output ports so that you know what formats and what interfaces through which the data needs to be delivered. Then on the consumption side, start with having a data product catalog, which makes it easy for your enterprises across and users across domains to be able to discover data products, create a global metrics layer. And again, the reusability of the data products that are discovered through this catalog will then drive the consumption from that layer onwards. From a lifecycle management perspective, just like a typical
Hang on, Srujan, we seem to have lost your sound there.
understand the which
You
they
might
need, be
have
able
to
to
rewind a second.
capture all of that into a design definition of a data product. Leverage, from at a build phase. One of the things I recommend is start creating some data product templates so that it becomes easier for you to start delivering on the business value. And this is something that Gartner also has been talking a lot about, is start leveraging data product templates to accelerate business value. And take that, and then how do you have the right stacks necessary in your underlying infrastructure, self-serve infrastructure, so that you can design the right transforms and the right movement that you need, so that you can actually build the entire configuration definition of the data product. From a validation and deployment perspective, uh, and we do a lot of mock data generation to validate while I'm building against a business intent, and ensuring CI/CD pipelines for efficient one-click deployment of the data products into a data product hub. And once the data products are deployed and used by the business teams, ensure that you have the right metrics set up so you can monitor the usage of the data products and provide efficient governance, so that you're not creating a complete sprawl of data products which will become unmanageable, which was the reason for creating a data product in the first place. From a design perspective, just a little bit details on the design phase. You need to first be able to have the right structure to capture the business model, capture all the SLOs and other things that I had talked about before. From a build perspective, ensuring that at least in a platform like ours, you have multiple namespaces where you can run and create these data products in your individual environments, and do your validations using mock data against business intent, and then deploy this. Uh, we take an artifact first approach, and I believe being more artifact first, especially when you want to manage data products, is going to help you a ton as you govern the data products and start scaling them across the enterprise. And from a deployment and reuse perspective, create a data product hub like what you see today. Make it easy for your business teams, business users to be able to discover these data products by domain, by internal second party or third party data or readiness. So there's multiple ways that you'd be able to slice and dice the metadata on the data product to provide a very efficient way of discovering the data products. And one thing I think, since the data products inherently are built with a specific use case in mind, having the right semantic search capabilities on top of a data product hub could be very useful, because oftentimes the business might not know what specific name of a data product that I should be using, but they understand the business intent and the use case that they're driving to drive. So being able to drive the discoverability of the data products by searching at the intent level, I think would be very useful in helping the business teams find the right data product to use for their business use case execution. This is a data product value map that we created to just help you understand the right to left way of thinking about data, where you start with what is the business value. So for example, if I'm trying to increase my marketing ROI across all my marketing spend, to do that, what sort of use cases do I need to develop? In this case, I might need predictive audiences, I might need some hyper personalization, I might need to be able to run targeted campaigns, etc. And for that use case to be executed now, what source systems do I have where the relevant data is stored is the first thing that I would think about once I know that I need to execute hyper personalization use cases to increase the marketing ROI. And to do that, what sort of third party data might I need? And these third party data sets can be made converted into ready to consume data products. Then start, based on the source systems and the use case that you're trying to execute, create a layer of your source aligned data products. And then from the source aligned data products, start creating the consumer aligned data products. So this essentially allows you to say, this is the end goal in terms of the business value. What sort of use cases do I need to execute back into that? And then go understand your infrastructure, understand, go into your existing source aligned data products to see what data can I use to power this use case. And the better coverage you get on your source aligned data products, which are mapped into all of your existing source systems, the easier it is for you to start building the consumer aligned data products, which are driving the use case and the business value on top. And then I just wanted to end with a real world example where we had a customer that was really focused on making their sales and marketing be data driven. They wanted top line growth, more efficient test and optimization on their marketing campaigns, and a lot more connectivity and efficiency in being able to use data with second and third parties as well. And to execute on some of those objectives, these were the use cases on the right hand side that the customer wanted to create. And to execute that, what the customer had was a bunch of data coming from many second, third party data sets, data sources, as well as Salesforce as a CRM. And we started with creating value products, which are essentially a synonym for the source aligned data products, where multiple sources where the customer information is coming was mapped into a single customer source aligned data product. All the information around sales coming from multiple channels into a sales data product, so on and so forth. And then these were essentially leveraged as a foundational layer to create these actionable consumer aligned data products that are built to serve a specific use case. In this case, a model to understand the likelihood of somebody reordering and what quantities and which category and when, an ability to upsell, cross sell, running churn prediction models on top of your data attribution, segmentation, etc. All of these use cases are powered through these 5 source aligned / value products that we created. And the customer started executing all of their use cases using different presentation layers, and that entire value is now being driven from the actionable product layer. And the business teams have no idea or do not where the data is stored, what is underlying infrastructure. They are starting from the actionable product layer onwards, leveraging our out-of-the-box integrations to execute on a business value like. And this from a company that was greenfield with Salesforce and a bunch of Excel spreadsheets to providing this kind of a value, we were able to deliver this in 3 months, 12 weeks. And that is the power and the speed at which you can deliver value with the data product approach. I just want to end there. So that was my presentation. Thank you, you all for listening in.
Thank you, Srujan. That was brilliant. Okay, so I've got some questions for you. Actually, Srujan, there's an alarm going off in the background. I think your noise-cancelling headphones mean you can't hear it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I know there is some alarm going on. Like, if you give me a second, let me just turn it off.
Or yeah, I'll let you turn that off. While Srujan's doing that, everyone in the audience, please do ask your questions for him. We've got plenty of time. I was going to say that this is the first half of a two-part webinar series. So tomorrow, Srujan's back. I've also got John Spence from ThoughtWorks. So I'm going to be interviewing them both on data products, and we're going to get more into the business side of things, like the teams you need, the processes you need, things like that. In the meantime, I'm going to try and ask different questions for Srujan now while you're thinking of your questions. All right, super. So as we were going through that, one thing occurred to me is that it's maybe not clear when you say, okay, I've got all this data, when should I turn this into a data product? Like, what's that point where you go, okay, I need a data product now?
It's always driven by the business need, Richie. So you don't think about, I have all this data, what data product do I need to create? You almost look from the other side. What is the use case that I'm trying to drive? Do I have a data product for this already? If not, then let me go build it. So for example, if I'm trying to create a power recommendation engine that requires data through an API feed, a real-time API feed, that is your business intent. Now you go work backwards to say, what data do I need to power through the recommendation engine? At what latency do I need to provide the data in what sort of a format? And then you go back and see what data do I have in the existing data product layer. And if I do not have that, what source systems do I need to go to get the data to then create the data product for the use case?
Okay. And so, so driven by the business use case, and it seemed like quite a few of the examples you were mentioning were sort of internal data products, so they're designed by the data team for other teams in the business. Is there a difference between these internal data products and external data products that are going to be that customers will interact with?
So the internal data, so when you say customers, you mean third parties, customers?
Exactly, someone outside your company.
Yeah. So that is driven, ideally, yes. The short answer is yes. The same data product should be able to power your internal as well as third party or customers being able to use the data product. But it depends on the kind of governance that you have set up and how you have built your governance engine, where can you apply the kind of dynamic governance necessary, and does your governance engine give you the capability to do row level filtering, masking, redactions, all the things that you would need to protect the data to share with the customer. If that exists as a governance engine, yes, you can absolutely do that, which is what I would recommend, is instead of creating constantly multiple copies of data.
Okay. So since you mentioned governance, it just seemed like a lot of the magic involved in data product is just making sure that you have all the right data accessible by the right people. Can you just talk me through the relationship between data governance and data products?
Yeah. So data governance obviously plays, a very crucial role in making the data product the source of truth. Like I'd mentioned earlier, if you want to share the same data through a data product construct with an internal or external user, you need to be able to have the kind of dynamic nature in applying the governance. And for me, governance also includes the quality of the data. So the SLOs and the data contracts I spoke about, which implicitly will guarantee the trust in data with full audit compliance logging. So when I start using the data for a recommendation engine use case, I don't have to worry about the lineage of where did this come from, Can I trust this data? Because the data product should explicitly say, this is the quality of this data, this is the freshness, this is the source of truth, and here is the full audit compliance logging to ensure that you trust this data. So that I think is very crucial. Without that, you won't get the kind of flexibility and the speed to value that I spoke about.
Okay, so really, maybe you need to get all your governance ducks in a row before you start thinking about, okay, now we can create a data product. Is that right? You do governance first, and then that enables data products?
More than doing governance first, it's setting up the rights. When I spoke about the building of data products with a self-serve infrastructure, where you have, for example, for us, policy, we declare policy as code, and building the right governance engine underneath at the infrastructure level that gives you the flexibility to apply these kind of policies, in a dynamic manner, right? So it starts with having flexibility in your infrastructure to be able to manage the data product in this way. And once you have that kind of a self-serve infrastructure, then essentially it's like, basically leveraging that infrastructure to apply the governance or the quality or other checks dynamically on the data product.
Okay. And near the start of your presentation, you mentioned, I think there are 8 different traits that you need in the data product. So things like discoverability and I'm not going to name all 8 of them, but 8 things is a lot to worry about. Do you have a sense of, are some going to be more important than others, and how do you decide which ones to prioritize?
I'd say, security of the data, obviously number one, making sure that this is secure and trusted data. The discoverability of the data from a cataloging perspective. However, you can be fancy, you can be very rudimentary, but having a very simple discoverability so that based on the use case, you know where to find the data product, and being able to address the data product from a system or a user perspective. I think these 3 are very crucial out of all of those.
Okay. Yeah, certainly I can see how if you don't have security, then everything's just going to be a complete disaster.
Exactly.
All right. So I'm also curious as to like what the sort of minimum viable data product is. Like, what's the simplest thing you can do in order to create a data product, or what's like the very first data product you might want to consider? Oh, I think we lost you again.
Simple and often.
Go on. Sorry, do you want to start your answer again? You're back again.
All right, sorry about that. No, I said, sorry, I missed my train of thought here. How do you go about it, right, in building data products? So I would typically, like I'd said in the data product value map, I would first start mapping out my source systems into my source aligned data product layer. And I would not recommend mapping out your entire source systems, but start with 1 or 2 use cases, from a business perspective that could be high value and easy to use from a accessing the source systems perspective. What I've seen is it's more the long pull here is getting the right permissions from the right teams to be able to access the right data to then build the data product. So when you are getting started on this data product journey, pick some simple use cases, for example, a basic version of your customer 360 to power maybe some customer analytics or a user lookup of your customer. And if that requires you to go into a couple of source systems to bring the relevant data, those are the kind of simpler use cases I would start with, and then start expanding the source aligned data product layer to cover your entire source systems across your enterprise. And once you have that layer set up, every use case that you execute on top from a business value perspective can be driven from the source aligned data product layer. So I would start small and then start expanding, across the enterprise.
Okay, certainly do something simple first, makes sense. And that's interesting that you suggest customer analytics is a good first use case. You want to be like close to the revenue side of the organizations.
Exactly.
I presume so you can demonstrate some financial value before you start expanding.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one thing that I have seen shift in the market, I'd say in the last 2 years, is organizations now don't have the patience to wait for 8 months, 12 months to see value. They want to see value quickly and often, right? And that has become very important. So the iterative nature of building this, domain by domain or use case by use case, and showing value in the process, I think would be crucial, even from an organizational perspective.
Okay, yeah, certainly I can imagine if you don't demonstrate value with your first data product, then management aren't going to be that enthusiastic about creating more. All right. So,
Absolutely. And being able to do that in 4 to 6 weeks, not make this like a massive effort, right? That's the other thing. When I was saying about, I don't want to wait 9 months to see the value in the first data product. I want to see that in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, is
okay.
what I hear from customers. Yeah.
All right. Short timescales is definitely important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Let's go to some audience questions. This first one comes from Emmanuel saying, if I've got Snowflake or Databricks, how can I create data products easily? So I know you gave an example of like the full software stack with different layers. Do you just want to talk through like maybe how data warehousing tools fit into this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have customers that have done a lot of work, invested in a lot of pipelining tools and a platform to centralize data, let's say into a Snowflake or a Databricks Lakehouse or an equivalent, warehouse technology. In that scenario, you can still connect into Snowflake as a source system in a way, and then start creating the domain-oriented data product layer on top of your centralized data storage, right? So I can easily plug into Snowflake and say that becomes my source of truth for building all data products. Oftentimes, customers will dump, if it's a lake house, every enterprise data into that. So it could be a good source of truth. The challenge is you'll miss out on, when you do that and not go directly into the source systems. How did the data come about into a Snowflake, or the lineage, and the transform sometimes might not be transparent or visible to you. So that is a challenge. But otherwise, yes, you can easily use a warehouse also as your source system.
Okay, so all your different sources, those go into your data warehousing platform, and then from that you go into the data product
The data
platform.
product layer, right? And the value is, you can still create your golden data sets in a Snowflake, for example, but the context that I spoke about, the knowledge around the data, and the output ports for out of the box integration options are missing in your storage layer. And that is what the data product is adding on top to give you that context and the integration, out of the box integration capabilities.
All right. Super. Before we go to the next question, just by the way, your alarm's going off in the background again.
Sorry about that. Is it? Yeah.
I don't know whether you want to, whether it's easy
I'm
to
sorry.
turn off.
I'm in a Yeah. Let me go turn off. I'm in an Airbnb here, so it's not my house. So.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure there's much else I can tell you while we're waiting for Srujan to come back, except for click on the QR code or take a photo of the QR code at the top left. Please do sign up for future webinars. We have got some great questions from you, which I want to try and get through in the next 10 minutes. So beyond the session tomorrow, we've got a session on May the 1st on getting started with data analysis in Alteryx Cloud. So as you may know, we've just released our first course on Alteryx. DataCamp's got a partnership with Alteryx, so we're covering that on May the 1st. Please do sign up for that. All right, Srujan, welcome back. So last question was around making use of things like Snowflake and Databricks. Next question is from an anonymous LinkedIn user, kind of the opposite of that. It's like, do I actually need a unified data platform in order to create their data product?
Do I need a unified data platform? I mean, you'd absolutely need a data platform, right, underneath, which is the self-serve infrastructure piece I spoke about, to be able to create the data product layer. But at the same time, I think a lot of tasks, like for example, you might be now securing your data at 20 different places, or you have observability, on many systems. Some of these things might become redundant because you can now govern from the data consumption layer onwards. You can set up observability on the quality and the business metrics from the data product layer onwards. So it actually simplifies your data stack underneath, but you still need some sort of an infrastructure underneath to be able to build this data product layer. But I believe if you implement data products the right way, you can significantly simplify your current data management stack.
Okay, that sounds useful. I think like having a complicated data management stack is no one's idea of a fun time. So next question comes from Samaditra. Samadrita. So do organizations need to have dedicated platform engineers to manage the infrastructure segments, or could that be done self-service? Yeah, interesting question around who needs to do what.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, I'll kind of try to answer it taking one step back. Because this, we spoke about the product thinking and the outcome first way that we need to think about data. I think one of the roles that is missing, and it's being talked about a lot now, is the role of a data product manager or a data product owner, just like a typical product manager for any other software engineering product, to capture the business intent, the capture all the definitions around the SLOs and how the data needs to be used. I think that is a role that is missing in a lot of organizations that we speak with, and a lot of organizations are now starting to embrace this techno-functional role as the business enablement role that sits between IT and business. And coming to this, yes, there should be a more of a self-serve way of leveraging the infrastructure if it's built the right way, where you don't have to constantly go into your data engineering and infrastructure engineering teams to provision data products. That is the whole point of the underlying self-serve infrastructure that is necessary. But you still need some of that technical resources, either at the domain level, if you want to create more of a data mesh construct where you want to have complete domain ownership, or you could also have a centralized team. And I've seen customers adopt both when they've implemented data products.
Okay, sounds like there's multiple ways to do this, and it's really just going to depend on what the resource capacity is for different teams and
exactly
who you've got available in your company.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Otto Series. I hope I pronounced that right. So saying, I work as a product data analyst in a media intelligence firm. So we're currently doing some user research about products to build. Your point on walking back from the business use case and the existing data struck a chord. I'm facing a dilemma between internal and external data products. While the latter might help some of my colleagues be efficient at work, the company's focused on revenue generation, and an external data product could help achieve these goals. So how do you prioritize between pushing for internal or external data products?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's probably a factor of your business priorities, right? In a way, but you could essentially, I don't see this as two different things. Like I said earlier in one of your questions, if you have the right dynamic governance, you can apply to these data products. You could leverage the same data product both for an internal or external consumption. Number one, in this case, I don't know enough. I couldn't get enough context around the specific business need to say which one is a higher priority. That's probably more of a internal business decision. But you will not need to create multiple types. If that becomes an issue, if the same data product can serve an internal use case, it can also serve an external use case without you having to build a new one. If you can apply the right governance and you have the capability to apply it dynamically.
I feel like if this is the first data product you're creating, internal is probably a safer bet because you don't want to go horribly wrong and then annoy your customers. Like, better to annoy your colleagues rather than people who are paying you money.
Absolutely. In fact, you could even build data products that are giving you visibility into your internal data operations too. And we are seeing now customers leverage that. So that's actually a much more easier way to get started, where you're not even impacting a business decision or potentially hurt your revenues or increase, whichever way. But if you want to test out the validity, you can actually create data products that are helping you understand your internal data operations as well.
Excellent. All right. We'll have one more question before we wrap up. This one comes from Al. So Al's saying, am I correct in thinking that the output from an ETL pipeline to extract, transform, load pipeline becomes the data source where the data product is built upon?
The output of a pipeline becomes input into a data product. Was that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it could be. Yeah, because absolutely. And but one thing I'll say is the data product is a logical entity, right, where you're defining all of these different aspects of the usage and the quality governance and the model. uh, Oftentimes, depending on the source system, most of the time, that logical, you have a federated query engine underneath that allows you to go into the source systems and do the exploratory analysis when you're validating the data product. And you actually only move the data from point A to point B when you have a specific performance SLA to hit. Otherwise, you could do a lot of exploration through the data product without moving data, which is where I was talking about the minimal data movement. Is you only move data when you have to. So yes, theoretically that could be the case, but think of data products as a logical entity which can be materialized only when you have a performance SLA to meet on the use case side.
Okay, so I'm not going to try and summarize. That was quite complicated, but yeah, it sounds like probably after you've finished your data pipeline, you're then creating this sort of logical layer on top of it, and that's going to be your data product.
Yeah, it's a logical layer. Yeah. So what I meant is, yeah, you don't have to constantly pipeline where you might be thinking I have to move data into a data product. My answer was it's a logical entity. You only move when there is an SLA to be hit on the other side from a performance perspective. Otherwise, you
Okay.
don't have to move data. Yeah.
All right, excellent. So thank you for all your answers there, Srujan. I'm really looking forward to checking to you about this more tomorrow. So yeah,
Absolutely.
welcome back
Looking forward.
tomorrow.
Yeah, looking forward to a great conversation with John Spence. I think he has a ton of experience in seeing these data products built across multiple enterprises. So yeah, really looking forward to the chat tomorrow.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you to Reese for moderating. Thank you to everyone who asked a question. Thank you to everyone who showed up today. I hope to see you all again tomorrow. We're going to get into this in even more depth, particularly from the
Awesome.
business side of things. Excellent. All right.